Many a times when you have the opportunity to speak to people who are in business, they give you a lot of theories. And you go back home and you ask yourself, how do I actualize this? Just for an example. So Ananaya was asking me, when are we getting to the financial part of the conversation? And I said, everything I told you is about finance. And the reason why I said that is because if you carefully listen to my presentation, there's more finance in there than anything else. But again, it's where your ideas drop. So I told you the powers that make things happen is words, you, and what? Time. Now, if you want me to put my money in any kind of business or any idea that you have, if you want me to fund it, you must be able to express yourself well, which is words. I must be able to define in your presentation that you have the capacity to deliver the words you've put down, which is you. And you must be able to tell me how long it's going to take to convert what my investment is into profitability. Otherwise, you can't get my money. You can't get my resources. So, so this segment talks about, I like how you're looking at me, but this segment talks about the real deal, which is the real things that you encounter. So, of course, with me is Dr. Seth Deborah. He's done a lot of private businesses and government business. So his experience is far wider than mine. I can't do government business for nothing. I can't deal with bureaucracy. So I'm building the patience to get there, but hopefully I get there soon. But his experience spans through private and public sector, so he has more to give than anything else. Of course, I'll ask the first few questions to get some things out of him. And if you have any questions, you can prepare it for him. So, sir, thanks for joining us. So I think one of the questions on most minds will be, what has been your number one challenge in people getting their ideas into reality? Because people will come to you with great ideas, people will come to you, of course, because of your position also. People will come to you with ideas either concerning the business or concerning their personal lives. What is your number one challenge when they come to you or when they speak to you?
Thank you very much. I think you've already spoken about it. When you started this session, and it has to do with design. And that's one of the most difficult things to actually do. To think through, lay it out properly, see the vision in a century, even when you are not available or when you are not around, and see that vision run. Because exactly what he said, if you come to me as someone who needs resources to run something, I'm not just in for the next 5 years and get my money out, especially if I'm putting in equity. If I'm giving you debt, that is easy. If I'm giving you a loan, that is easy. Because I will just squeeze whatever I have to squeeze out of you in a very small amount of time. But if you want a long-term partner who puts in equity, then you need to show a very good design. And that design should have minimum flaws, and that's what people don't have the time, especially the youth don't have the time to do. Have it clearly outlined over a very long period to attract funding. Now, I always say this, that structure brings funding, or when you structure your project well, it attracts funding on its own. You don't have to do much because people now see you've put in a lot of effort to get where you want to get to as a business person or as an entrepreneur. So these are some of the things that we actually see in the field on a daily basis.
Wow. So that's clear. Definition of any business sets the trajectory of how anybody should relate to it. So that's fine. I think I agree with Doc, to a large extent. If you cannot define what you want to do, why should I even think of following you? Dr. Bako puts it this way. Will you give a car, a bus of people to a juvenile or somebody who cannot drive to drive them to an expected destination? No, it's not possible. So you have to pay attention to that. Defining an idea is key. Defining a vision is key. It sets the foundation from day one. We will know whether you are serious. Anybody will know whether you are serious or not from how you put those words together. So, Doc, one of the questions that most youth will ask is, are entrepreneurs born or are they made?
I personally don't believe it. People have skills, they have traits. But entrepreneurs are born. It's a passion that you need to develop. And once you have that passion, you need to then develop the needed skill that goes with that passion. The skill, the attitude, and the knowledge needs to be built. Nobody was actually born knowing how to set up businesses. It's a passion that you have. The fact that you have that passion doesn't mean you have the skill to go along with it. You can have a passion for running, but you may not have very strong legs. So that doesn't mean you should then just jump into it. So entrepreneurs are not born, but people have a passion to be entrepreneurs. And then you develop the skill, the attitude, and the skill, attitude, and knowledge for it. That gives you the competence to become an entrepreneur. So it doesn't just take a day. I mean, if you have to wake up at 8 a.m. every single day and expect to be an entrepreneur, it doesn't work like that. Entrepreneurs barely get sleep. So again, when John said, when you see him riding a motorbike, that doesn't mean you should ride a motorbike. It points to a certain mindset that you have to develop, or we have to develop as people, as entrepreneurs. So we need to work on it. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of skill development. It takes a lot of research, a lot of reading. Because when you are able to do all those things, then you see the pitfalls. I say this, ideas are not given to one person. And please, those who have ideas or who have had ideas, I want to do this business, I want to do this business, and you put it down, maximum 3 months, you see somebody raise that same business. So ideas are not meant for you only. So immediately it hits you, you need to start the planning process and put it into action. But without the skill, knowledge, and attitude, you are already lost. But someone has already generated that and is already on his way. So sometimes you get an idea, 1 year sitting down and you see a billboard showing that same idea. And one thing that even hurts most is the names and everything that you had, the person has used it. So we need to develop that skill. And again, I don't want to be religious. It's like we put a lot of prayer and expect the angels to come and then do everything for us.
Yeah, shortcut.
And there are no shortcuts. You need to put in the work.
The angels are faster. They know, they can execute within different realms. So let me just add to this. You know, in 2019, when Dr. Bako gave the prophecy in December into 2020 and spoke about Cedi Account, it fascinates me, and I'm always fascinated when I think about it, because the build-up to the birthing of Cedi Account, which I think is still in a birthing canal, because of the dimensions that God is giving to it. It was simple, okay? God dropped the word through Dr. Bako and said, the future of education is science, technology, engineering, arts, and the difference that makes you unique. And that children have to be raised now, because when you talk about education, it's raising children, right? The processing, to be multidisciplinary. Okay? Now, if I pull up the page of that book, it should be in my bag somewhere. Someone find my bag, the book should be there. If I pull up the page where it's recorded, the prophecy is recorded, I don't think you can find the fine prints anymore, because one had to clearly define what God was saying. And please, Anana, if you mind, just look in my bag, you see it. I want to show it to the camera. It's important. The definition aspect is key, which is why I want to come back to it. And that is when you know whether you are an entrepreneur or not. After you've put words, you've defined something, the identity of who should run with it would definitely emerge. Yes, would definitely emerge. And when it emerges, that's when you don't have to be selfish. Doc said, you have an idea, you put it on the shelf for 1 year or 1 month, and then the next time you see somebody has the idea. Cedi Account is not unique. What we started doing, it was not unique at all. Thank you so much. It was not unique at all. What was unique was the breath that was driving it. The future that was stated in the idea that God had. When God released it, it's God's idea. He's expecting us to carry it and bring it to pass and make sure that it becomes tangible. So in 2020, again, I didn't have access to the book. It was not printed. I think it came out in March. When COVID hit was when it came out. Now the journey between January 2020 and March 2020, most of it was outside the country. We were in Israel for most of the time. I didn't go to Israel to pray about Cedi Account. No. Going through the presentation, COVID hit, chaos started, disorder came, then the idea came, the idea flashed again. What is God saying about education? Because now I have 3 children bringing me Zoom links, Meet links, WhatsApp homework, email homework. What is this chaos? And the school is charging me the exact amount that I pay for doing none of this. Now, God had to touch my finances, had to touch my peace of mind, family. He had to touch all those things to create that chaos. So you can think about a solution. And so when we started thinking about the solution, we saw what God has said. It was easier to make it happen. I hope you are following. Now, the aspect of are entrepreneurs born, or are they made or created? To add to what my brother said, there are aspects of this vision that even if you paid me $1 million, I won't do it. There are people skilled beyond my abilities that handle certain functionaries of the idea. So they are entrepreneurs in their own right in that angle. There's the legal aspect that runs that enterprise. There's 4 other arms of Cedi Account now that other people run. That if you put me there, I'll be lost. What they do is they make me look good. So if I feel like my leg as an entrepreneur is not moving right, I just have to look at handling the leg, and if they have to be fired, they are gone. Because the leg has to move. I hope you understand. So to touch on the iconic name entrepreneurship, that title, it is not the one who sits in the car or the big car, the Land Cruiser, or the one who gets to write the check. No. In every business, there are many enterprises. And there are people running these enterprises that are entrepreneurs in their own right. Of course, there's the aspect of somebody starting their own business and then running into the enterprise of that business. But I thought I should bring that up. So it's clear, entrepreneurs are not born. They are not born. Okay? They are not born. It's a skill that you develop. I hope we've settled that. Let me just take. You want to add something?
John, let me touch on something quickly. I mean, you gave a very instructive example with Cedi Account, and that's one thing as Christendom. Let me put it that way, if I'm allowed to. We get lost in it. Whenever there are challenges, rather than looking for a solution and expanding that solution, we rather look for the solution and then solve that problem for ourselves. But we don't see the business aspect of it. So we just do something small to solve the problem, and we are okay, and we think everything is fine. But that solution can be a multi-million-dollar solution for the world, or even for the community. So it's time we start looking beyond ourselves, looking beyond the little solutions that we can find for ourselves, and then try to expand those solutions or stretching those solutions beyond our homes.
Excellent. Let me just also, add some meat to that. Apart from Cedi Account, there are other things that I have been involved in, and the only examples I can give you are mine because they are the most credible. I work them myself. So, for example, Karen asked the question about breast milk, and some mothers do not lactate, okay? And when that happens, sometimes the children that are born become malnourished and koshoko. So back in the north, where I do most of my charity work, there was one time where they developed something called the Winnie Mix. So Winnie Mix is a mixture of beans, peanut, maize, millet, or something, just to create a concentrate or some food, protein food base to help the child. They would do into porridge to help the koshoko or the malnourished child to get out of that phase. So I didn't develop the product. The women in the village came up with it. They developed it. So one time we were designing a project, and I was designing it with some company in the US. They were funding the project. And they had given money for the purchase of Winnie Mix. So I think they had given money for the purchase of 100 or 1,000 packages for children. So I sat on the table, and I like my numbers. So I looked at the numbers and I said, it doesn't make sense. But I could not argue with the authority. So I had to be a little bit stubborn. So when the money was transferred, I now invested in a mailing house and a farm to grow the product because the budget was enough. They were already suffering. Let's be honest. I'm not now going to be a miracle Jesus today. They were already suffering. Buying 3 months of extra suffering for future sustainability makes sense in my mind. So we purchased just a good number of the Winnie Mix, and we put the mailing house, and we grew the stuff. As we speak today, the facility does not buy Winnie Mix. They produce their own. Because the EU came to the facility, saw the concept, and built a warehouse. So whatever they produce from the farm, they store it now, they mail it, they bag it, and they now sell to other hospitals the Winnie Mix. So talking about solving problems for yourself, it's the same thing. Now that food, they are selling it to other hospitals that have malnourished children. That's why your ideas must cross boundaries. It is said of Joseph that his bowels will be over the wall. You have to go. It will start small. The key thing is to start small, because make small mistakes than big mistakes. It costs you less to make small mistakes. Make sure the concept is right, prove the concept, and then enlarge it. God did the same thing. He created Adam and Eve. Based on their mistakes, he multiplied. and set rules and said, okay, in future, if they continue to be stubborn, I'll just put Jesus in there and I'll solve the problem. Now they'll have no excuse. He did it. It's there. Step by step. Are you saying Moses had to be born when people were crying and shouting that we need a savior? Now Moses had to be born, not just born, being chased, put on the river, 40 years come, we are still crying, save us, people are dying. He will now go to Jethro. That stories in the Bible fascinate me. I mean, we are crying for a savior today. You decide that the person should be born. 40 years, we will miss it again. He will go and come back. Another 40 before we are delivered. Because God believes in starting small. Not just starting small, but starting right. On the right footing. Yeah. Anyway, any questions? Yeah, Brother Uche, go ahead. While you get him ready, while you get him ready. Okay, is he ready?
Thank you so much for this program. I wish two things: that all these seats that are empty would have been filled. Second one, I wish we are on other platforms where people who are not on this local assembly can also benefit. Reason, I'll give my reasons, because what we are talking here is not only for Ghana, it's not only for even the West Africa, it's all over Africa. I'll give an example. Where we have, we are not in the equal playing ground. In this part of the world, we hear other people say they have a dream. Their country has a dream, and they are chasing their dreams, their country dream, and they fulfill it. I ask myself, in this part of the world, do we have a dream? And then, if we don't have a dream, so what are we chasing? if you get my point. That's one. In the sense that here we're talking about planning or having ideas and running towards that ideas. We've talked about people coming to you with an idea. And we have in this same part of the world, West Africa, where I have an idea. But that idea requires steady electricity to make it happen. And I don't have it. So it's like, let's throw the idea away. And second part, if we have people who are like destiny helpers, I can go and share it and trust that the person will not steal the idea for himself because he's ahead of me and has all that it takes to make that idea come to pass. Or let's say the idea will not be hijacked. That is why we see a lot of young guys chasing their own personal dreams. Now we call them Yahoo, because there is no structure there to help them run on a course that the whole nation is running on, building the nation to a.
How do we remedy this canker where we don't know where we are going?
As a people.
As a people. So, to put Brother Uche's question into the context that he wants, is we talk about ideas, we're talking about how to actualize the ideas. It sounds or it looks as if most of the nations in Africa do not have ideas of their own. Now, the essence of what Brother Uche is saying is directly related to patriotism, right? Directly related to patriotism. We have advanced as nations on the continent up until this point. And if you look at the history, because of patriotism. And what patriotism does is that people are rallied around a vision tangible to the people. Okay. No, so talking about the American dream. No, I know, but talking about the American dream itself, based on what we know, I'm yet to see what dream America is really selling. But they are selling something. Okay, so we'll leave it there. But in terms of even that using America, for example, it's patriotism. Okay? They have created value in that name so much that even if it is not functioning the way it is supposed to function, their marketing is apt. Okay? Sorry we didn't go into marketing of your ideas, but like I said, identify the market. But it's apt. But in order not to take a rabbit trail so that I can also give my brother some time to present, you must have a point of contact where that idea must be incubated. Okay? And if that idea is incubated right, then the procreation of that idea becomes easier. So let's use a seed and a soil and tree, fruit, plant as an example. Agro, okay? What I'm saying in effect is you must have the right seed, which must be of God. Okay? That seed must be placed in the right soil. Okay? The right person must receive that idea. Okay? The right heart must receive that seed. That heart must incubate that seed. Incubation of that seed, you've not even added words to it yet. Are you following me? You've not gotten to adding words to that idea yet. You are still meditating and thinking of the idea. I'll have to put an example here to make it clear. So I'm sleeping in my bed and I have an idea that I should be living in a house. Okay? If I call anybody, okay? Anybody, an architect, and I say, I have a vision, I have a dream, an idea that I should live in a house. Let's do an example. I like practical example. Auntie Becky, let's do a quick one. If I called you and I said, I have an idea to live in a house, what will be your next question to me?
The size of the house, how you want it to look.
Now, the mistake we make we make most of the time is we don't understand definitions. So she is an architect. He is a lawyer. Okay? These are functions that only function after you fed it. Do you get my point? Mm-hmm. They are not sitting there thinking for you. No. If you sit in an Uber, do you say Uber come? When you take your Uber application, you instruct the application what you want. And if you make a mistake, you will land in that mistake. Do you understand? So back to this, the seed, you have to think about it. That is why it starts with the right soil receiving it, okay? You have to think about it. And in thinking about it, what you are doing is you are giving it the necessary nutrients, okay? The seed will die with you, okay? It will die in the soil. But you have to give it the right nutrients. For example, like I said, spend time with the idea. Spend time with the idea. You are thinking through the idea. The people who normally work around me or who assist me most of the time, they don't get fed up with me, which is good. When they get fed up, I know. But when I call my lawyer, for example, to discuss something, the conversation, if it lasts for 30 minutes, I can tell you, he only speaks for 5. And that 5 is intermittent, okay? So he'll let me speak for maybe 7 minutes, and then he'll throw in a question. But because of relationship, now when he throws in a question, I've perceived 5 ahead. So I close it there. And once he's satisfied with the presentation, he now goes to work. Do you understand? But by that time, I've finished the incubation. Now, because I've been able to articulate it rightly to him, I have bought his enterprise. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I have bought his enterprise. So I've rallied it. So Brother Uche is saying that because nobody has elevated a vision or a dream or has communicated what is free SHS, it's not a vision. Do you get my point? So the current president's vision is, free SHS is not part of it. It is Ghana beyond aid. Do you get my point? But for us to get beyond aid, we must have good quality trained capacity. I hope you understand. I hope you understand. So if you mistakenly put now what is an accelerated or what's called an influence or a cause or effect, you now place as a vision, you've lost. And that is what we do. So a political party comes and then they elevate something that will complete their manifesto, okay? And then we now rally behind that as a vision. And when they realize that we are, excuse my French, stupid enough to reduce ourselves to that level, then they blind us and feed that tiny thing. And because it's not a vision, it's just an enabler, it will die down the road because there are no persons rallying. That's what it, please, sorry I took all the time, but I thought I'd bring.
I think that was very instructive that you bring those points out. I think the third day of the week, I was with one high-ranked official in Parliament. He told me this, that politicians don't build nations. Politicians don't build nations. They create the avenues to take what they can. So, if you don't, or we don't, build those things ourselves, trust me, we are going nowhere. The avenues are made available. If we want to exploit it, they are available. In terms of destiny helpers, I like asking this question, and if our mentor is here, he will ask the same question. Who showed us the destiny helpers? An idea was given you, laid on your heart by the Spirit of God, and you decide, I think Brad John has enough money to help me. And I go to Brad John, and when he steals the ideas, we complain. Let God direct us to the people. So when John was speaking, I outlined one thing. We need to form the right relationships. Number 2, John has mentioned, but I'll mention it again. Sometimes we as a people are selfish. Since it's my idea and I see money at the end of that tunnel, I want to be the one running the whole thing. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't. When you go to the bank, there's the security guy there who will direct you to the teller. The teller takes the money. It goes to her manager. And then before it goes to the bank manager, there are steps. And there is a value chain where everybody generates something out of that value chain. We need to learn to share. We need to learn to form the right relationships. We need to learn to collaborate amongst ourselves. And one thing, we've not talked about finances yet, as John said, but if you are able to get people, like-minded people, to share in your dream, What you do is that you reduce the risk of the project. It's called risk minimization. So that if, and it's a big if anything comes up, if there's a hurricane that hits that business, you won't suffer it alone. And you won't suffer so much because you have people who have invested in it and are able to take part of the shock, and the business will not die. But currently, as African nations, if you ask me on a personal note, I will tell you we don't have a nation yet. Or we had the nation, but it was broken down. We have individuals. So the issue of patriotism is lost. And that's what the ecclesia needs to help the country get into a national state. That's how come you don't see a vision, you don't see a dream. As he said, immediately the dream is set, and they set agenda on the dream, and they see you hook up to the agenda, the dream is lost. And then you follow the agenda will be lost in 4 years. And that's it. So it's time we also have influence in some of these things that are being worked on. I will ask myself and even ask some of us, when was the last time the ecclesia scheduled something that's where we are going as a country? I think this is not the right path. We need to shift and take this path and advise government and their advisors. Unless it's about something else, then the ecclesia comes in and says, oh, I think there's a way to go. But for real development, for nation building, we are not sitting down and building a nation, even as ecclesia. But it's something we need to get onto. John says something about working in the public and private sector. When there's a big project that is incubating now, and when you are sharing the vision of 100-year project with a politician, the first thing he asks you is, what am I getting out of this? But then there are ways of going around them to force their hand to do what is right. And that is what we need to do as a people. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Question? All right, online question. So there's a question online. What is the evolution cycle of an idea? Interesting. Are there fundamental principles that ought to remain constant? Yes, your belief. Is there a way to pulse check whether the value of offering has not veered too far from its original construct? And if it has, how do you maintain the plumb line of value? How does an entrepreneur factor in the challenge of change? You want to take it or you want me to take it?
Maybe I'll take part, and let me start from the bottom.
Okay.
Change management is a constant, because you will always have what to call environmental factors, things that you cannot control. It's out of your control. So once you know that I have things under my control, but there are other factors that are not in my control, you need to institute what we call a change management. And then establish it in your idea generation. So I give an example. There is a law that allows you to, let's say, sell tomatoes on the street. So you build your idea on that law. Say, I'm going to sell tomatoes on the street. You work everything out. Before you roll the idea out, implement, manage that idea into real action, the law is repealed. What do? But you have the tomatoes. You are set to go. So you need to go back into the law and see what actually gives you a bit of liberty. You don't need a full law, but something that gives you some space to operate that tomato. Change management. So you need to build that into your idea preparation, even your management of ideas, and make sure that it's well established. Don't be, for lack of a better expression, be focused on this is the only way to go. Entrepreneurship, business management is like mathematics. I know most people don't like mathematics. But there is no single solution to a mathematical problem. You will take another one, another person will take another one, we will arrive at the same answer. So let's build that into our businesses. John.
All right, thanks. So is there a way to pause? So I'm going down up because you did the last one. Is there a way to pause, check whether the value offering has not veered? Yes, there are many ways, which is why defining is key. Okay? That's why defining the idea is key. When you have defined the idea, let me put it this way. So if you wanted to sell tomatoes and you came to me and you said, John, I need $1,000 to start selling tomatoes, and I gave it to you, and you came back after a week to say, oh, I lost all the tomatoes. I'm going to ask you what happened. And you're going to say, the law was repealed, so my tomato was seized. I can't blame you, okay? The reason why I can't blame you is because I didn't take time to look at the value proposition. And I made it easy for you. But if I told you to go and do some more research, like you rightly said, you will understand that laws change, okay? And we'll prepare for it. And because we are in the space, laws don't change and they say tomorrow start using it. They give you time. I mean, we have a lawyer here. They give you time where the law will be repealed. So we'll be able to evaluate all of that. What I have come to realize in my little life of doing business is anytime you've done something where the resources are already available, even before you define the idea, you learn little. You learn very little. Like I said, in the chaos, in the confusion, you think harder. Okay? In lack, you think harder. So if all you had was 20 cedis, and you have to take a car to the foundation to attend this program, and you have to eat, okay? And you have to do other things with the 20 cedis. I can guarantee you the temptation to come to the foundation is perhaps because you want to come and see somebody. Otherwise, for me, it's not rocket science at all to go online if I have internet. It's not rocket science to call around and see who is coming so that I save that transport. It's easy in my mind, okay? And I can even go down to evaluate, listen, you know what? Instead of taking Uber, let me call Trotro. For those of you who can, I'll call Okada. I will bring it to the level where that 20 cedis can be maximized. But if I had 100 cedis and I'm supposed to come, quick, Uber, I'll pay, I'll eat. So there's a place where when God himself is saying, our present sufferings do not compare to the glory thereof. You know, there's always a present suffering. Hello? Nobody has ever missed that present suffering and has become somebody. Look through your Bible stories again. Show me all the people, David's children, the one who had the easy life. You saw their result. The ones who had some sort of a tough upbringing, their results are there. So I'm saying this to say that yes, your checks and balances starts from the definition. Okay? God gives you values, beliefs that you don't turn from. And even when you veer from it, you realize that when you go back and look in the lines, you will find it. So, Cedi X is about 3 years old now. And every week, let me not exaggerate, every other week, I go into this page. Can you see it? And every other week, I've drawn a line, or I've drawn a circle, or I've drawn a star, or something around this. Because anytime I feel like the thing is not, the idea is not moving well, I know that there's something wrong somewhere. There's a key factor that I have left. So I have to go back to the original definition of what God said, okay? And when I go through it, trust me, I'll always call somebody. We missed this. And the one who suffers most is Elon. We missed this. We'll argue for a few hours, but once it is here, it settles the argument. So when you veer off, you always have to go back to the blueprint. That's what I wanted to say. Back to the blueprint, the prototype. Look at the, what's it called, the pilot. Look at the entire chain and see what you missed and get back to it. What is the evolution cycle of an idea as long as you want to engage it? The evolution cycle of an idea is as long as you want to engage the idea. Like I said, there are ideas that you can, okay, for me, there are ideas that I can birth in an hour. There are ideas I can birth in 2 weeks. There are ideas I can birth in a month. There are ideas that I can birth 3 years fully. There are ideas that I will never finish birthing because of the nature of the idea. It's how much you want to engage the idea. That's the life cycle of it. So if you want to cook banku, you put the water on the fire, then you turn the fire off. Now you go and buy the flour, kondo or whatever. You come back, you now turn off the fire again. The water will heat. You put the dough in. When you create the paste, you turn the fire off. It's up to you. Go and lie down. When you wake up, you come back, turn the fire on, heat again. You start stirring. Then you stop halfway. When it's almost cooked, it's your own business. Tomorrow, I'm sure by the time your banku is ready, somebody will bring you banku fish and pepper to eat. It's your own idea. I hope it makes sense. All right, thank you. All right, we have room for another question before we wrap up. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question is this. In the 4 steps that you gave when you're doing your presentation, at what point in converting your idea to a product do you start doing your pitching?
Okay, so for me, when you use the word pitching, for me, pitching starts from day one. Okay, even the idea coming to me is a pitch from a spiritual realm. So if I am not Christian.
Okay, let me clarify it. When I say pitching, like for example, you're sourcing for funds. Maybe you like to go to a corporate organization and go and pitch your idea over there. Or an organization like maybe MasterCard.
You want to go to MasterCard? No, I'm just, why? Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. It's a question. So I'm just saying, you want to leave your ecosystem and go and pitch the idea to somebody outside your ecosystem. It's fine. It's fine. It's still the same formula. Write it down, make it plain. My brother said something. If you go and give the idea to somebody and they steal it, you can't blame them, okay? Because perhaps that's not the person that the idea was supposed to go to. But at what point do you pitch the idea? It's when you have, I use the word marbles. It's when you have all the marbles right. You see, the 3 points I gave, which is words, you, and time, is loaded. And I pray that you spend time with it, okay? If I present an idea to you, you think it's already existing. I know that it's a gift I have. There's no 2 ways about it. I don't boast around it. I don't argue about it. I can walk into a place, and if it's an idea that I have been thinking about, I can say it, and you ask, where is the business? It's a gift. Because before I start speaking about an idea, I've done my research. I know where the pitfalls are. I know where the advantages are. It could be anything. So only share your ideas when you have control over that idea. And that control could be in the area of words, you, and time. That you don't need anybody to help you. Well defined, you've applied yourself rightly, you've set your timelines. When you do this and you go to MasterCard, okay, knowing MasterCard very well as a corporation and how they work. I've not worked there before, but we read about them. They have documentaries all over. Knowing their ethos and their beliefs, they are not ready to do any business outside what they do. And I want to ask a question. Who here knows the job of MasterCard? Who? Who can tell me what MasterCard does? What does MasterCard do? MasterCard, what do they do?
Is it not credit cards?
That is where you got it wrong. MasterCard barely, they don't even issue credit cards to anybody. The company does not print cards for anybody. Banks print cards and put their logo on it. Because behind the bank's operating system of funds transfer and all of that is an engineering by MasterCard. So MasterCard is like your fintech. Okay? They provide financial inclusion solutions. That is MasterCard. So going to MasterCard for money on its own from day one, Waira, you are lost. Unless they have pitched a fund, endowment fund, which they have now. Because now they have a deep pockets now for endowment funds. Yeah.
Okay, so a follow-up question. Let me be a bit realistic now. This is a practical something I'm going to put across. Now, a company like, not a company, a bank like Data Bank or ECOBANK, I know they have foundations. And I've done a bit of research on it. And I know they're into projects like education, health, around that. So if I had an idea, let's say, for example, an after school, I want to start an after school project. And I go there with my idea and sell to them without really knowing much about their ethos, like you are saying. I already know that they support this kind of ideas. What are the pros and cons or the pitfalls? Let me put it that way.
You want to take I have a very direct answer. She might not like it, so you take it.
So you're coming to an organization for funds. You need to know what I do as an organization. That's the first thing that you do. If you don't know what I do, what I can support, what I cannot support, I mean, you've lost it from the beginning. So it's important that you know what they do. It's very important. For pitching, I give you my example. Sometimes I'm contracted by International Atomic Energy Agency to do what they call expert missions for them in other countries to support their energy projects. Sometimes they contract me about a month, 2 months. When I get it, I have to make presentation and all that. But I get to do my presentations sometimes a day or two before my travel. It's not that I postpone. Whenever I'm working within that 2 months, that 3 months, I need to structure how to get the information to them. Information that is useful. So structuring your pitch is important. It takes some time, it takes knowledge. You need to read more about the country, you need to read more about the entity. You need to know what they are looking for. So it's important that you do this. But again, know the institutions you are talking to. Know who is leading the institution. Know what birthed the institution, what they stand for. It may be education, but not the type of education that you are looking for. It may be trade, but not the type of trade you are looking at. So know who you are talking to. Because what hits business people most is this. You plan a pitch that you think this is an award-winning pitch. They will keep quiet. Everybody there will keep quiet. Listen to you. 30 minutes. You finish and say, sorry, this is not for us. And no. You see, we give you that respect for you to present from your heart. It's out of respect.
But Doc, I mean, in the presentation, they are not listening to only what you say. No, in the presentation, especially when you are coming for my money, I'm not only looking at what you say. Like I said, I'm looking at your words, I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at your time. That's me. These are the three things I'll evaluate. Now, when you said you should know what a company is looking for, I believe the expression was, so why do they put it out there? Now, let me tell you how social corporate responsibility works. Okay? So the company has, depending on what country they are in, they are given by law to spend X amount, Kwekudaku can help us, X amount of their income, profit, to give it like a give back. Now, companies found it interesting also to do that, because then they don't have to now think of any huge charity or tithe progress or process, okay? So I don't know for Ghana, but it's there. Now, when they are giving you this portion, two things I know, there could be more, but two things I know they'll focus on is, how does that benefit them, their brand, in terms of awareness, popularity, and all of that. That's one. Number two, how are you spending that money? It's charity money, it's free money, but how are you spending that money? These are the two things they'll look at. So, you said education, after school, blah, blah. If you're pitching to a bank, and you went to the bank and you said, I've realized that parents are not teaching children financial literacy, for example, like we did here last week. And so I'm organizing an after-school program, 30 minutes per child on financial literacy. And this is my curriculum. When you show them a curriculum, it means you've looked at the financial structure of the bank and you know their beliefs. So you've wedged it into a curriculum. So you show it to them. This is a curriculum. The next thing you show them is, this is the end product that I'm looking for at the end of this time. So at the end of 3 weeks for each child, I'm going to give them a certificate. But this is the exam they are going to write. And this is the product I'm looking for. If you give it to a bank, it's educational, but it speaks to the bank. So he's going to say, oh, it makes sense, because on a certificate, if you say ECOBANK sponsored whatever, it makes sense because it's financial. Now, if you went to them and say, if you go to Choco, there's rubbish everywhere, and I want to teach the children hygiene and all of that. If you came to me as a financial, I'll say go to Jospon. Do you get my point? I can easily tell you go to Jospon. Why? Because CSR money is not free. It's guarded for impact. Okay? It's really guarded for impact. And that impact must have relevance on the giving company. I did CSR for a US company for a huge budget, which is one of the things I was telling you about the mail, okay? If the execution has not got healthcare component, to it because they're a big healthcare company. If it has not got anything to do with healthcare in it, that project will not fly. You can do, so even if you are doing education, we put in healthcare. If you're doing whatever, farming, you have to put in healthcare. Your outcome narration must conclude in healthcare. I don't know if I've put the sentence right. Does that make sense? So again, back to it. You cannot just go anywhere because it's available. You have to research where you're going, how you want to go there, and what you want out of that place. Okay? All right.
Just a quick one. Who has this app on their phone? The MTN app. Who has it? The people using MTN. So before this app came up, I worked with an agency in UAE. They're actually a Greek company. So we developed the app, and we're going to do gamification. We are going to game the app. So I went to MTN, and I pitched this. He sat there for 30 minutes listening to me. After I spoke and laid all the cards down, he told me, it's a very good idea, but gentlemen, we are developing our own app. And it's about to come out, as if it was tomorrow. 2 months, it took about 2 to 3 months.
Development time.
For the app to come out. So you need to know who you are talking to. You need to know what. I wish I knew those things before now. Because there should be people I have to talk to within that company before me engaging them. Okay. It takes time to develop these things. And after you show them even a demo.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of the day, say, no, it's not for us. So there are things that you have to know, you need to go through. And thank God, I mean, these things are coming up. We have young ones here who will be able to take it, run with it, not make the mistakes that we made. I remember the very first time I was invited to Costa to share on some of my ideas. Dr. Bao, I finished share everything. I'm a scientist, and that's what I do. I share. Share everything, including technology, everything. And when we finished, Dr. Bao called me and said, Seth, you are good. But also look at the other side, because what you are sharing, somebody is also looking to develop it into money. So know what to share, know what not to share, especially when you are dealing with organizations. Thank you.
Excellent. I think that rests the case squarely where it's supposed to be rested. Right? No, leave your head. It's not your head. But that's the mistake we do. I mean, it's easy to say when I take mobile phones to a telco company, they'll buy it, isn't it? Okay. So again, Cedi as a company is about to get into that space of producing devices. So I spoke to one of the telcos. And I said, guys, you have to partner. Fortunately, it's a relationship. It's my cousin. So he says, John, you have to understand. MTN or Vodafone does not sell devices. We don't manufacture devices. We sell. We enable them to function the way they have to function. So you are complementing us, of which we don't have to invest in you if you don't want to. So, perceptions, assumptions. There's a movie I will recommend, but it's not good for everybody to watch. But what's his name? The guy who nobody beats in the movie. He'll twist your arm. What's his name again? Steven Seagal. Yeah, he tells you. He says assumption will mess you up. There's a line. I don't want to use it, but watch one of his movies. Assumption is a matter of something. He'll tell you. But stop assumptions. Don't assume. Be specific. Be determined. Be sure. People, I'm not afraid to say I don't know. I'm not afraid at all. It could be a child. I don't know. I have no idea. I'll think about it. I'll get back to you. It's simple. There is only one God that is all-knowing. That is his title. I don't want to take it from him. I'm not even in a hurry to take it from him. He's all-knowing. Amen. I'm happy to be related to him. As and when I want encyclopedia help, I'll go to him. So let's stop assuming and let's get to business. I hope this has been beneficial to you. And we intend to, thank you. Sure, so we intend to have many more of this so that we can help each other. Iron sharpens iron. So thank you so much, Doc, for making the time. And thank you all for making the time to come. The next time we'll meet again, we'll let you know, and then we'll meet. Thank you so much. God bless you. Shalom.